Fuck this. I love James Bond. I love Daniel Craig as James Bond. I love Sam Mendes as a director. I love Skyfall. So why don't I like Spectre? I don't hate Spectre. I don't even know if I'd say it sucks. It's like a step above sucks. It blows. But there are so many things wrong with this movie. I think the only reason I don't think it sucks is because James Bond is in it. Kingsman is a better Bond movie than this. If James Bond was in Kingsman, it would probably be my favorite movie of the year. Right up there with Pixels. Sam Mendes. Sam Mendes is a great director, and he's made great movies before. Too bad they didn't have a script.
Well, it's a pleasure to finally meet you, 007. I've heard a lot about you. Most of it good.
Cut.
Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig is a great James Bond, and he has his moments in this, but he isn't given anything to do in this movie. It's entirely the script's fault that he looks like a misogynist psychopath.
Tell me where he is.
He's everywhere. Everywhere. Everywhere.
You pretend.
Everywhere.
Christoph Waltz. Great actor. Could have been a great villain, but he's given nothing to do.
What is this place?
Information. Cut.
Léa Seydoux. She's a good actress, and she would make a perfect Bond girl if she was given something to do. She can totally pull off that sexy and badass at the same time thing, and she is just that for a little while, but eventually they just abandon it.
Come anywhere near me, and I'll kill you.
Okay, now let's talk about the bad stuff. The awful opening. This is one of the worst Bond openings in the entire series. That's really saying something. What a shit show. I don't like Sam Smith either. I don't listen to his music, so I don't hate him. He's just something that exists that I don't listen to. Now that I'm forced to listen to him, I can complain about it. This won an Oscar? What the hell is going on? They've really got to get rid of that category, because it's just stupid.
It's something epic, and it was so epic.
I'm not going to argue that this guy isn't talented. It's not like he missed any notes. It's just that the song sucks. It doesn't fit the movie at all. James Bond is awesome. He's sexy. He's a badass. He's what every man wants to be. So you take this awesome character, and then you hear this? And then I get comments like this. Like, what? I've actually gotten this comment before. People tell me I don't like him because he's gay. I didn't even know he was gay till last week. After I blew him. But regardless, that's not a factor. He just doesn't sound right for this movie. If you took his best song and put it in the opening, I bet it still wouldn't work. I really wanted to give this song a chance. I heard it on the radio, and I'm like, maybe in context it sounds okay. But after hearing it in the context of that awful opening, I just hate it. But the song is far from the only problem with this opening. So after the ridiculous first action scene, they're falling and they join hands, and then we see James Bond kissing a lady. It's so, uncreative and boring. And there's an octopus tentacle, that's 3. Remember the old James Bond openings where, crazy shit was happening? I mean, sure, there was, naked women dancing around, but they were given lots of cool shit to do. And there was a real, visual flair to it, the camera's moving. Here, it's just, ladies touching James Bond and an octopus. Ladies touching James Bond, octopus. There's another octopus, 4. And
put the eyes. Whose idea was this to put, eyes? It looks so dumb. Who watched that and went okay, that's good. We're signing off on that. And they signed a little fucking contract. The eye contract. I have a better idea.
Okay, so Sam Mendes, hear me out. You're just gonna... Okay. You take that, right? And you use that instead. When you're not here, I'm suffocating. I wanna feel... There's another octopus again, and then there's another octopus. I don't know what happened, because Skyfall has one of the best openings.
It's something epic.
Just this long, boring, vapid, gloomy sequence. It's hard to say what exactly makes a good James Bond opening and a bad James Bond opening, but when you watch one, you can just kind of tell. The images make you go ooh, ooh, that's interesting. It gets you excited, you know? Just like how when you see a bad James Bond opening, you know it's bad. You don't know why. Awful characters. Q. Q is there.
Is obviously still in its developmental phase.
He's okay.
Few layers of impenetrable security.
Ralph Fiennes. Although replacing Judi Dench as M is almost impossible, Ralph Fiennes would have done a decent job if they had given him something to do. Unfortunately, his character's only function in this film is to walk around and talk to one of the worst villains in Bond history.
You don't know what you're doing.
It's not personal. It's the future. And you're not.
You're a cocky little cocky.
See? Sucked.
00 program is prehistoric. Come on, Em, you can't really tell me that one man in the field can compete with all of this, running around out there with his license to kill.
The scenes with him in it are the worst scenes in the movie. This scene between him and Ralph Fiennes is so mind-bogglingly awful. Bogglingly?
How predictably moronic. But then isn't that what M stands for? Moron.
And now we know what C stands for.
Lea Seydoux. I already discussed her at length. She could have pulled off this character if she was given a character. Mr. Spectre. Christoph Waltz, aka Mr. Bad Guy, is terrible. I've realized something. Hear me out. Christoph Waltz is an incredible villain in Inglourious Basterds. He's funny, scary, fascinating. Hollywood sees this and goes, he is great at playing a bad guy. Let's cast him as the bad guy in whatever, and he'll do a good job and people will love it. Here's the problem. Christoph Waltz is great in Inglourious Basterds not only because he's a talented performer, but because Tarantino wrote a character for him to play. He has a talented screenwriter and director guiding his performance. Hiring Christoph Waltz and throwing him in a movie aren't the only two steps to making a great villain. You've got to write something for him to do. That's why when he's in Django, not playing a villain, he was almost as amazing. Because there was a script for him to read. You can't just put him in a movie like Green Hornet and say, okay, we've got the villain covered, no need to write anything. Because then you get this shit. Christoph Waltz is playing Christoph Waltz because no one is telling him what to do. Plus, he's so underused in this movie. He has only 3 scenes, one of which he's covered in shadow, and one of which he has makeup all over his face. Wait, what did I like about this movie? Finally, James Bond. James Bond is a weirdo in this movie. To be fair, he's always been a weirdo. We just kind of ignore it because he's a badass. If you were to give James Bond a psychopathy test, how do you pronounce that? Hold on. Psychopathy. Okay. If you were to give James Bond a fuck it. Let's answer these questions like Bond would. Most would describe me as charming and nonchalant. I could turn my charm on and off like a faucet. This is definitely me. I do what I want, when I want. The moment the impulse strikes me, regardless of what others want. This is definitely me. I've gotten into legal and criminal trouble as an adult. This is definitely me. I am easily the best at what I do, bar none. Nobody could ever take my place. This is definitely me. I do whatever I feel like doing, and I don't care what others think, or even if it's illegal.
Make me disappear.
May I remind you that I answer directly to M. I also have a mortgage and 2 cats to feed.
Well, then I suggest you trust me. For the sake of the cats.
This is definitely me. Every person for themselves. I don't see the point in feeling sorry for other people, and have no desire to help others. Okay, he did care for Lea Seydoux in this movie, for no reason, so we'll just say, this describes me somewhat. I have no problem or concern in lying in order to get what I want. This is definitely me. Live in the moment is what I say. The future will take care of itself, and learning from your past is pointless. This is definitely me. I never feel remorse, shame, or guilt about something I've said or done. This is definitely me. Now, if you scored an 18 or above, you have strong psychopathic tendencies. Of course, Bond scored a total of 23. He's a fucking crazy person. The difference is, in the other movies, they make Bond charismatic. and somewhat compassionate. In this movie, Bond isn't any of those things. Aside from Léa Seydoux, he could give a flying shit about anyone else. Undo everything they set up in this new series. I love all the Bond movies for their own reasons. I have all of them on Blu-ray, even Spectre. However, toward the 80s and 90s, Bond started to get silly. Too silly. Casino Royale was the first realistic Bond movie. By realistic, I mean it's set in some sort of reality. It's not realistic. This is realistic.
What's the access?
A new secret source of mine.
But how could he possibly have access?
He has access to the most sensitive levels of policy making. We've named the operation Witchcraft.
Well, Percy and his pals bypassed us smiling gone straight to the minister.
Realistic spy work is boring. Casino Royale was just more realistic, I guess. It was realistic enough to make you care about the characters and feel that everything had weight and consequence to it. Bond's skills are put to the test in this. We see him shoot tons of people and do crazy agile shit, but we also see him socialize and outsmart others with his charm. His romance with Vesper feels genuine and natural. It doesn't feel forced. When James is being tortured and you hear her screams, you feel what James feels. You can say some things don't make sense, but the emotional connection is there. The scene where Bond resigns from the 00 program is ridiculous. He just emails M that he quits. I thought it'd be a bit harder than that. You can't just go, "Dear M, I'm resigning from the super secret organization. I promise I won't share any of our secrets. Trust me, love James." But the point of the scene is that he's willing to leave everything behind because he loves Vesper that much, which is what makes the ending that much more tragic. Bond is trying to be cold, like he used to be. And when he says,
"The bitch is dead,"
it's him trying to hide the fact that he felt something for someone. That's why I like Quantum of Solace so much. Bond isn't traditional Bond, but that's the way he should be. He wants revenge. Skyfall has similar themes, but instead of being a romantic interest, it's M. All three of these films are dark, but have their moments of levity and fun because that's what makes us care for all these characters, even the villains.
Well, first time for everything. Yes.
What makes you think this is my first time?
Oh, Mr. Bond.
It's not just dumb humor, it adds to their characters.
Now the whole world's gonna know that you don't scratch your fucking balls.
Spectre fucks this up. What made this rebooted series great up till now is that it wasn't silly schlock, that it was a more realistic approach with characters that weren't cartoons. This movie is ridiculous. And what makes it even worse is that it's not ridiculous all the time. It tries to be serious at certain points, and it's like this odd mix of silly shit and somber, serious drama. The opening action scene is over the top and ridiculous, which would be fine if it wasn't followed by the most boring, somber credit sequence in film history. If I were the editor of this movie, I'd want to kill myself. Having scenes of stupid nonsense followed by scenes like this?
Everywhere!
Mediocre action. The opening shot of this movie is great. I didn't like the shootout that happened afterward. I didn't even understand why this building blew up when I first saw it. After watching it again, they cut to a close-up of a briefcase for about a quarter of a second, and it blows up. So I'm like, oh, maybe Bond shot the briefcase and that's what blew up everything. But why did... who cares? This train fight is good. This explosion is cool. And that's it. The rest of the action in this movie is uninspired and nonsensical. The helicopter scene to me is just a little too ridiculous. And this chase scene in Venice was kind of boring. This plane scene is just stupid. Bond pulls a plane out of nowhere. I thought I missed something. Not much to say about this. So, yeah, the action's not good.
Lunch?
It's boring.
Cut.
Do you understand how much I really enjoy James Bond films? Even the tropes in these dumb movies don't bother me. But the thing is, the good Bond movies have certain elements that make them good and entertaining. None of which this movie has.
Information is all. Is it not?
For example.
So, I made a list. Yes, I'm making another list within this list. I would call it Listception, but I'm not an asshole. Number 1, globetrotting. Bond movies should take us to awesome locations. Let's look at Skyfall, Istanbul, which is pretty cool looking. Shanghai at night, which looked awesome. Hashima Island in Japan, it was like this destroyed city. Looked awesome. Scotland, absolutely breathtaking vistas. Now let's look at Spectre, Mexico City. Yeah, that shithole. I'm sorry if you live in Mexico City and you're offended by what I said. I'm also sorry you have to live in that shithole. Abandoned building in London. Yawn. A train. A desert. Snowy mountains. And Rome, Italy. I guess that's kinda cool. Much nicer than Mexico City. Number 2, a good Bond villain. No. Number 3, a good Bond girl. No. Number 4, a good Bond. No. Number 5, good action. No. Number 6, good credit sequence. No. So what else is there to like about this movie? That's all anyone wants from these movies. Skyfall and Casino Royale do all these things. Even Quantum of Solace did some of them. Spectre did none of these things, and it's just boring. Hey, you guys over at MGM, write this list down. Take a picture of it. This is the bare minimum of what you need to make a good Bond film. Just cast Idris Elba, do everything on this list, get a good director to expand on all these elements, and make Bond great again. Hashtag make Bond great again. I didn't want to make a video criticizing one of my favorite series in film history, but I had to.
Learn to accept the blame for everything. If the script was poor, you didn't work hard enough with the writer. If the actors failed, you failed. If the sets, the lighting, the post, the costumes are wrong, you gave them the thumbs up. So build up your shoulders. They need to be broad.
Please reevaluate and make your fans happy. Pandering to us with the Bond theme song and familiar imagery isn't going to get the job done. You're gonna have to try harder than that. Love, Ralph.